All right, today we have yet another U5000 here on the bench, and this was sent in from a gentleman by the name of Tom, and he is having issues with contrast problems after a severe, I'll say, gaffe in trying to work on this. But basically, I'll give you a rundown here on what he sent me. If we zoom in here, it says, so I have a U5000 chassis that has been giving me, pardon me, giving me problems for about 2 years now. Basically, I bought a Cruisin' USA with a dead monitor. I took the monitor to a guy that got it running. I installed it back into the arcade and everything was great. Then after a month later or so, I bought a CR70 rejuvenator and decided to rejuvenate the CRT. Everything was fine. A friend of mine told me he always disconnects the anode cap before rejuvenating, so I did the same. Here's where everything went downhill. Now, I will say that you do not need to disconnect the anode cap when you're doing a rejuvenation. There's no reason to do that whatsoever. Case in point, because this can happen. After I rejuvenated the CRT, I forgot the anode cap, or I forgot to put the anode cap back on the CRT. When I plugged it in, all I heard was screaming electricity. Well, that's going to happen, unfortunately. Quickly, like 1 second, unplugged it and realized what I had done. After that, the monitor showed super dim colors, and the contrast pot was basically like a light switch, maxed washed out colors or dark dim gray, and it jumps around on its own. I have done some work of my own on it, and I will tell you what I have done so far. Cap kit flyback, another neck board, different remote control board, replaced R811, tested all critical components, light bulb test, multiple HOTs. One guy on Clav said it's something to do with the ABL circuit. I don't think so. Could be, but not really. And the B plus is only 102 volts with the B plus pot maxed out. Well, yeah, it is maxed out there. So we'll take a look at that. I'm wondering if you want to take a look at this repair. Be cool if you made a video about it. Thanks for reading. So yeah, I thought, well, sure, why not? So a couple things here, now that that is out of the way. I've never seen the vertical sweep mod like this before. There's no separate adjustment. Now, the very early models of the 5000 didn't have the selector on here for the 15 kilohertz versus 25, but I've never seen the vertical sweep mod like this, and it's like it's all burned up there, like it got way too hot and it burned up, and they moved the connection from this one to that one. I've never seen anything like that before on the 5000. It's all very odd how they did this, but I mean, if it works, it works. I don't think that's part of the problem, but it's very odd. I might not even mess with that at all, but a couple of things I've noticed here is being that it's in the Cruisin' USA, it's running medium res, and like all these, it's all completely burned up here on the connector. So I have a spare one here I was just going to rob these parts from, but I thought, now, it's probably in everyone's best interest, because you may not have a spare parts board to get these parts off of. So if you're in a situation like this where you've got this exact issue and you don't have any spare parts to swap out, I'm going to show you how to repair and fix this to make this more reliable for the future. Now, the reason that this happens is a poor connection here on the pin, but also because the header pins get very thin and crack, and they create, when you have a bad connection, it causes high resistance, and the high resistance increases the amps because the voltage has to push harder to get through, and that's how this ends up happening. So the previous person that worked on this did the reflow and all that stuff, so but the damage was already done. So we have to fix this. But one thing I notice here is that is not good. So this could be part of our problem as well, but the B plus is stuck at 102 volts. Now, you never really want to run these with the B plus pot maxed out like that. It's all the way clockwise. So we're going to start with checking some components and get our power supply working in B plus regulation up to snuff, and then we can concentrate on the other output side of this. So I'll go ahead and hook this up so it's not flopping around on us here. So first things first, let's check R104 and make sure it's around 10K. 10 to 12K is the normal reading for R104. And we get 9.27K, so that's good. We'll check our MOSFET. The MOSFET right there, it should be 0.5 voltage drop to one leg and about a 1.0 to the other. So in diode mode, we go to our center pin, negative. One side of the other two legs here should be 0.5 voltage drop. 0.47, okay. I'd like to usually see that a bit higher, but that's okay. Other one should be about 1.0. 0.9. Those are slightly below average readings, but it doesn't read shorted or open, so that's what's important. The bottom side of this is not too bad. There are a couple lifted pads which are common that they had to put a little bend the leg over on. The insulators here for the resistor is missing for the vertical, but that's not the end of the world. So, all right, so those components are okay. Now this capacitor, I'm wondering what that reads. The one that's burned up there. I want to make sure it's not shorted. And we get, yeah, we're reading in the megohm, so it's not shorted, but it should not be burned up like that. That's bad. So we're going to replace it anyway. And I didn't turn my iron on. So while that's going, I turn my little fan here, aka extractor. Turn that on. So in the meantime, the W159 jumper here that isolates the output of the power supply to the rest of the chassis is kind of all buggered up. So let's go ahead and get that out of there and straighten it all up and see if we can make that look a bit better. I'm just bending it around here real quick. Okay. Now we should be able to desolder that. And that is here. And that was barely through the hole. Okay, so that's lifted out. Now our power supply is isolated from the rest of the output here. So we can work unfettered on that. Let's go ahead and remove this burned up capacitor. And we'll go ahead and just replace it with the one from this donor chassis here. As you can see, this one met with a very violent end. So it got demolished in shipping. And so that's, I've had questions before in other videos. How do you determine when a chassis becomes a parts chassis? Well, when you have something like this, parts chassis. Come on. There we go. All right, so we'll put that in there. And let's give this just a quick visual look over here. Make sure nothing is amiss. Yep, it all seems okay. We checked our MOSFET, we checked our R104. Those are really the only two culprits of power supply problems that you normally would have. So those are the only two ones I really check on a regular basis. You really don't see very many other components in the power supply fail. I have seen some of these polycaps in here next to the switchable power supply chip go bad, but only maybe like 2 or 3 times in all these years. But that usually results in ticking or one single tick and then no power. So if our power supply works, we don't got to really worry about that. So I really only check the R104 and the MOSFET. That's about all I really normally check before I test these power supplies. But I don't see anything missing. We do need to turn our B+ pot. I'm gonna put it about halfway, just for a starting point. All right, so that's close enough. Got it about, I don't know, halfway between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock is good enough. Now, This is plagued by what I've talked about before. See these sockets here? They're spread open. The gap in the socket should not be that wide. And this is where you end up with, people say, hey, my monitor worked 1 second and didn't work the next. And they turn it off and back on, it comes back on. Oop, I dropped my tweezers, hang on. So if you have that problem where it turns on, shuts off, and it's going into shutdown, you don't overlook the simple things. If you grab that connector and you boop, put pressure on it one way or the other and it turns on, you let go and it turns off, well, it's because these sockets are spread open and they're not making good contact. It's called pin tension or pin retention. So I get a little pair of tweezers here and I put these down in here and I squeeze those sockets back together. So if we go in here and just kind of squeeze it back together, it didn't work out too well. Oh, it's because I wasn't actually around. There we go. They're spread out so far I can't even get the tweezers in there. That's better. Okay. Okay. Sometimes it's not easy, and I have to resort to the smaller set here to kind of, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to show you what these look like, and they're a bit deformed now. They're a bit deformed, as you can see, but they should reform themselves when we plug the connector in. Couple times, and better, but that's going to give you a much better connection and you won't have to worry about that problem I described really hardly ever if you do that. So okay, I think that about does it for what I want to do for test or for preemptive testing here. So let's grab our light bulb here, 60 watt incandescent light bulb, and it runs about 4 volts low. So basically if I want this to be 117, I got to set the B plus for it to read about 113 using the light bulb. So if we put it to 113 with the light bulb, it should be around 117 when we actually use an actual picture tube. So we'll go to ground, we'll hook on that, and we need a couple of more leads here so we can test our voltage. Go to volts DC. We'll clip on the ground again. Oh, I want to use the black one, not that it matters, but just so I don't get something backwards by accident. And then we'll clip onto there, I should say, clip on there. All right. So, positive, negative. All right. Now, this should light up. If it doesn't, then we know our issues with the power supply. I do want to say that there's a burned up resistor over here that I saw earlier when I was giving this a look over. There's a burned up resistor there, which I'm sure is probably part of our contrast circuit, which we'll take care of later. Okay, so let's turn this on and see if our power supply is functional. At least start with that and go from there. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yep. 126. Okay, we want to get down to about 113. If I am correct, and I'm probably backwards here on those numbers. Yeah, I don't think that's right. I think it's yeah, I'm going to go to 120 or 121. I think I have it back. I think instead of being 4 below, it's 4 above. I think that's what it is. Okay. Okay, so 121, and it does adjust. So our power supply, good. So now the question is, what else could be causing the problem? So I didn't actually test this beforehand. I just kind of took the owner's word for it that this had issues. So, and I'm sure that it does, given, which I'll show you the resistor here shortly. So this resistor is burned up and very likely open right there. Right, that guy right there. So let's measure that and see what that reads. And I want to go into the schematic and look and see if that's part of the contrast circuit or not. And we can check R811 also. So R811 resides right here, and it's supposed to read between 50K and 100K depending on the revision of the chassis. So if we go here, it's usually about 75K. It's 50K. It's a bit on the low side, but 50K to 100K is normal. So it's because that's a normal reading, 50K, we'll go ahead and go with that. But this resistor here, R809, it looks like, I think that's probably going to be open. Well, it's not open. It's 370 ohms, but we're reading it in circuit. 373. So now I have to find... Obviously I can't use this one because it's missing half of the board. Let me dive in the closet here and find another 5000 parts chassis and see what it reads on that one. Okay, found another one here. So we'll put this one back, I guess. So let's take a look at this one. Is that R809? R812. Oh, that's interesting. Look at that. It's already, it must burn up often because I've stolen it already off of this one. It's already missing. So I've already stolen that from this one, and now I'm starting to wonder if maybe that is another cause of contrast or color problems on the 5000. It's definitely R809. Well, now I don't have, that's the only other parts, 5000. Let me go grab another 5000 that I have down in my stash, and let's see if, well, first of all, I'm pretty sure I have one, but let's go make sure I have one, and I'll grab it, and I'll bring it back up here, we'll read what it reads on that one and see if it's something close to this. Alright, so it turns out that you can use a U5000. You don't need a U5000. The U2000 and the 5000 are basically the same. The only real difference is that the 2000 doesn't have the circuitry for the dual resolution. But it does have the same setup over here that we're looking for. So if we use the U2000 here, and we go to R809, is it around 320 some ohms? Well, it's 282, but the remote board's hooked up. So if this resistor does have something to do with our contrast, it should change when I disconnect that. And it doesn't really change. It's getting closer to 300. But, yeah, that resistor may not be actually bad, but I'm going to replace it anyway because it's all burned up. So I don't know, we need to test it out of circuit as well anyway, so let's put this back away. And, okay, that being said, let's get this out of here. I mean, we need to test it out of circuit anyway, and it needs to be replaced because it's all burned up. And quite honestly, I need to go into the diagram and look up R809 and see what it's supposed to read, because that's really the way you should do it. But given this is the amateur channel, let's do it the hard way first, and then yeah, it got so hot it's damaged the, not damaged, but the solder joint's very oxidized and starting to crack, and it's going to be dangerous to get this out of here without lifting a pad. Because these traces on these things are like super thin, and I'm always worried about lifting pads and traces here. So I'm going to actually lift up on the leg of this resistor while I heat the pad. Got it. Okay. Okay. Success. Did not lift or break a trace or pad. Okay. So, let's get this guy out of here. Yeah, that's not good. Out of circuit. Reads. Yeah, almost 100 ohms higher than the U5000, and they should read the same. So let me go look up what R809 is supposed to be, and I'll come right back. Okay, per the parts list on the manual, this is supposed to be a 390 ohm resistor, and it certainly is 389.7. So even though it's kind of all burned up, it is still good. So I don't think I have any parts U2000s to steal this from, so I'm going to see if I can locate a 390 ohm resistor to put in there to replace this. So that needs done. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and start looking at other stuff here. So I'm going to turn that off for now. Let's zoom in here and just take a look, start taking a look at some stuff here. So, that right there is a bit suspect, but it's connected. Yep, 0 ohms. There's a big solder trail there. So I'm half tempted to find the replacement resistor and fix the headers here, or the issues we talked about with that, reflow a couple of things, and just try it and see if we can duplicate the discrepancy, because it's quite possible that when they did the rejuvenation on the tube, this problem is due to the picture tube, because after you rejuvenate a tube, it's always hit and miss whether it's going to work or whether you actually cause further damage to the tube. So the contrast problems they're experiencing could very well be their tube after doing the rejuvenation. And it very well could be that this is fine. We very well could just replace R809 and fix the connections here, and it may just work. And if it does, then I have to suspect that it's something with their picture tube, because this is not going to cause contrast issues. And R809, even though being burned up, it's checked within specs. So, and our power supply is functional. So, yeah, I have to wonder if we do this work and it works just fine on my end, then I have to suspect it's their picture tube causing the problem. But there is some stuff I want to reflow here. Okay. I don't understand. If their image looked good, I'm not sure why they wanted to rejuvenate the tube. But rejuvenations are hit and miss. You can cause more damage than you're trying to fix if you really don't know what you're doing, or you just get unlucky. But You gotta be, so you have to kind of be careful when you're doing that kind of stuff. Yeah, some of these don't look all that great. I realize that, I got to pull these pins out of here, but we'll go ahead and do that real quick. Or the reflow, I mean, there real quick. When I hit that. Test point pin. And this here. Kind of all burned up over here, but okay. All right. So I think that's going to about do it. At least for now. Some of this rework, I don't know. All right, well, let's fix up this, then we'll get a new R809 and we'll just go ahead and try it. Does that sound like a plan? I think that's a plan. Okay, so how do we get these out of here? Well, it's quite simple. We can just use a flathead screwdriver to push the little tab down, and the pin should slide right out. If we can manage to do this here. You don't want to push too hard, because then you'll push the locking tab down through the socket and you'll never get it to lock in place again. So just barely press the little locking tab down and the pin should slide out just like so. And then you can see that our locking tab is still intact. Maybe. Right. Yeah. It's going to be hard to see, but our locking tab is still, it's not pushed down all the way through. There you go. Still up slightly. So if you want to, you can take a little driver here and just kind of, or even something sharper, not necessarily sharper, but take your pair of tweezers here and just push that little tab back through slightly. Oh, too much. But I said slightly. Dang it. There. Now, see that the locking tab's up a little bit. So now it'll go back in quite nicely. So you just repeat that process for all these pins. And I'm going to do this over my towel here so I can just get rid of all of the fiberglass bristles into the garbage can. So you want to, so you can look at the oxidation on this, a little here before, and then I'll just go like this. And now it's like brand new. So we want to repeat that process for all of these pins. And I'll put a link down below where I got this and what I use it for. This is actual fiberglass and not that cheap crap you get on Amazon. Well, I'd say that, but this is off Amazon. But those red and yellow fiberglass pens, they are not actually fiberglass. So after you get that done, you can actually take this and just put this back in here, and it should make a nice satisfying click. Well, more of a clunk, but there you go. Now just repeat that process for all the pins in here, and then what we'll have to do is take these, well, you don't really got to take them out, because when this sits in here, these sockets sit against, these sockets will sit against this side of the pins. So you don't actually have to take those pins out. We can just kind of take our fiberglass pin, and I don't know if you can see the oxidation on those pins there, like these right there. We can take our fiberglass pin and just kind of go like this across there. I realize you can't see, but I'm not left-handed. Now all that oxidation on those pins is gone and they're squeaky clean now. You can't really tell too much, but let's see if I can get a different angle on those. It's hard to tell, but in person here looking at it, it's quite a bit different. So that's all you really have to do. These aren't, I don't think these were even used ever in their life on the 15 kilohertz side, but that's all you really have to do to clean these up. So those are good now. So I need to get a new R809, and I need to do all the rest of the cleanup on these pins here, on all the other ones, and once that's done and we get R809 in there, I will be ready to test. So I'm going to do all that off camera, get all the rest of these cleaned up, get a new R809 installed. When I come back, we'll have it on a picture tube ready to test. I do want to mention that this is not the original neck board like it said in the email. This is from a K7400, and it has not been reworked. It's got the original caps. This has all been recapped and reflowed a little bit, obviously, but this is all original. It does not have new caps. It has not even had any reflow or rework on the neck board. It's a very low hour neck board. You can see it's hardly discolored at all, so I don't need to do any prep work to this. We can just have it hooked up and ready to go. But I do want to turn these down to about let's say 25%, because on these series of chassis, they don't really like to be turned up any more than about 25%. The bias pots, I should say, the drive pots, you can put at 50%, but the bias pots don't normally like to be up higher than about 25%. And so you start out at 25% and work your way up from there. So, and then all the remote board pots are in good shape. None of them are broken or otherwise degraded or something. So let me get all this rework done, get this fixed, R809 installed, and then we'll come back with it on a tube and ready to test. Okay, so we're all hooked up. I got all of the pins cleaned, all the sockets cleaned, and everything is all back together. I got a brand new 390 ohm resistor there for R809 right there. And coincidentally, that resistor, the 390 ohm resistor, is identical to a K7000. this resistor here, R82, is a 390 ohm resistor, same specs as the one that should be in here. So change that out, and we're ready to go. So what we're hoping to see here is complete linear contrast adjustment, because if you recall, per the email that I got, it was either completely all the way overdriven or completely off. There was no linear movement. So if we get that, then I have to suspect that the problem with this is the tube that they rejuvenated, something went wrong or something like that. I can't say. So let's just start here. I have our meter here set up to read B+ on our test point right there by that cap, TP202. We're looking for somewhere close to 117, and we'll see if my light bulb is supposed to be 4 volts below or 4 volts above. I can never remember. So, all right, here we go. What's going to happen? Nope, we're not ready to go. Hang on, it's always something. I forgot to hook up our cruising board. It's always something here. I always forget something. Okay, there we go. So, now here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's just ticking. Well, that's not good. They didn't say anything about HOT being bad. I didn't check it. Nope. HOT is bad. Well, I'm not going to be able to really test this like this. Here, let's just see if I can do this here. Okay, we'll go to diode mode, and let's, because you should be able to hear it if I test it here. Yep, HOT is shorted. Well, I don't recall the email saying anything about the HOT being shorted. It just said that it worked, but it had contrast problems. Unless I overlooked it. So I guess we're going to have to take the HOT out and replace it. And I wonder if R760 and R765 are good. Well, back to the drawing board, and we'll we'll get the situation solved. Then we'll try it again. Okay, so the HOT was in fact shorted. Out of circuit as well as in circuit. So the HOT absolutely was bad. However, when I took it out, the insulator was kind of decrepit and haggard looking, and it looked like there might have been a little pinhole in it. So when I replaced the HOT here with a brand new 6920, I put a new insulator in there as well. So that's been changed out, and I also did verify that R760 and R765 are within spec. 760 is 33 k ohm and 760 is 500 ohms, and 765 is 33 k ohm. So those are okay. None of those polycaps on the other side of the heatsink there are shorted. So none of those are bad. The two resistors are not bad. And there's nothing else I could find that would account for the HOT being shorted other than a possible bad flyback. So I went ahead and just put a new one in, and everything is now back to the way it was. We're ready to test B+. We're hooked back up to TP202. So if this does work now, we're going to check to make sure our contrast moves in a linear fashion. If it doesn't work, then I have to suspect the flyback is faulty from being grounded out when they hooked it up with the anode cap off. Or if the HOT gets taken out again, I have to suspect the flyback is bad. So that all being said, let's cross our fingers and try this again with the new HOT. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hey, yes. And we're at 118.2. And we do have, get my ground out of the way, Cruising USA. So far, nothing. Let's turn up our brightness. No brightness. Contrast. No contrast. Flyback. Oh, there we go. Okay, red's pretty low. So let's, okay, brightness all the way down, contrast all the way down, screen pot up until we get an image, and then back down a little bit. So there we go. Okay, brightness, contrast. We have, so that's with contrast all the way down. 10, 20, 40, 50, 75, 100. So let's turn our, yeah, like I said, that R811, this is what you get. This is what you get when you have an R811 that is out of spec. It's a black and white image. And that R811 is reading 50k ohm, and it should be about 75. So let me change out R811 to be more close to 75k. I have a bunch of R811s. Let me change that out because that 45k is kind of low. I said 50 to 100, but it should be around 75. And as you can see, we just pretty much have a black and white image, and we do have a linear contrast adjustment. That's all the way down, moving it. That's all the way up, moving it down. I mean, it doesn't. This might be what he was describing. It's either all the way up or all the way off, and that could be R811. But let me try something here first. Let me put all these color pots at 50% as opposed to 25. And no, it's just a brighter black and white. Yeah, so that's not the problem. So let me swap out that R811. I've got RGB. That's red all the way up, green, blue. I mean, there's RGB. It's just, okay, we'll go about 35%. So, well, yeah, I have to suspect that R811. Let me change that out again, even though they say they've already changed it. Let me go ahead and change it again, and we'll see what we get with that. Okay, so I have this solved. Well, I'm pretty sure I have it solved. So I took R811 out. You recall it was only reading 50k, and I mentioned it's supposed to be between 50k and 100k. Well, I took R811 out and I put a brand new 75k ohm resistor in R811, and it read 50k also in circuit. I'm like, that's odd. So I checked R811, the original one here that I've reinstalled. I took it out and put a 75k in there, and even the 75k read 50k. So I checked the original R811 that was reading 50k out of circuit, and it read 100k. Well, that was correct. It's supposed to be 100k, 50 to 100, but this is revision delta. So it's supposed to be 100k in revision delta. So it read 100k out of circuit, and I have two resistors, two R811s, one 100k out of circuit and one 75k out of circuit. But both of them in circuit only read 50. Now, that shouldn't be. It should read, whatever resistor value is in there, it should read 100k or 75k or whatever it is in circuit. In this instance, with this disconnected, it should read the actual value, and it isn't. I put the original R811 back in here, and you can see here that it reads, again, 40, 50, 50k. It should be 100. Out of circuit, it's 100. And it should read 100s. For instance, if I was to grab a U5000 here, which has the same resistor and all that jazz, if I check R811 on this one that's completely together, it reads, there, see? It's going to settle down around 75 or so, well, 90k actually, 89, 90. So yeah, in circuit it should read the actual value. But this is reading 50k no matter what resistor I put in there. Now that's not obviously supposed to happen, and also something is killing our contrast. So you have to start looking at the schematic here, and I traced this out, and we'll zoom in here. So I took the flyback out to rule out anything wrong with that influencing our reading, and I'll put it back in a minute. But so this leg of R811, it goes, let me zoom in a bit more. So this leg of R811 goes over here and attaches to this leg of R810, which then comes across over through this way through this capacitor here, right here, this guy. It goes through this capacitor, through this resistor, across over this way, through these components, through, not these components, it doesn't go through these at all, sorry. It comes off of here over to here, no, from here over to there, through R810, down this way, through this capacitor, through this resistor, along here to this jumper, straight to D805. Now, man, that was a really bad example there, but anyway. So if you go to diode mode and we go to D805 and we check D805, short. Flip our leads around, short. If we go to ohms, 0.7. D805 is shorted. So if we grab a donor 5000 here and we check D805 on this one, voltage drop. Other way around, nothing. So we have a shorted D805, and we're going to have to remove this faulty D805 and put this working D805 onto here, and then put our flyback back on and check and see if we read our 100K ohms, and that'll hopefully solve our problem. And yeah, I'm not sure if there's going to be anything else wrong with this, but I think we know our B plus is good. It was 117.9, close enough to 118. I'm not going to bother with it. That's good enough. We know we had a good, decent picture. It just had no contrast control, and that's due to 805 here, D805. So I think if we change out D805, we should be back to 100%. And I'm also thinking that this original resistor that was on here burned up, and they put these other resistors on here on the vertical sweep mod to account for the fact that they couldn't get that original resistor after it burned up, so they put this conglomeration on here. But the white wire that comes off of here that connects to this post to be able to change between medium and standard, that is gone. So I mean, it really doesn't matter all that much if they're only going to run this purely at 25 on a cruising and never put it in anything standard. If they want to put this in something that's standard res, they're going to have to add that wire to here and run it to there for standard. But I'll get with the owner. If he wants me to do that, I'll do that. That's no problem. But I think after we change this D805, we probably should be back in business. So let's get, I'm going to turn this back on here. I'm going to desolder D805 out of here. Okay, quick and easy. Unless I did the wrong... Yeah, you gotta desolder the right pads, you numbskull. My skull is very numb. This one. Okay. Take two. There we go. D805 successfully extracted. Boom, there it is. Boom, boom, there it is. Boom, boom, there it is. All right, out of circuit, shorted. Pesky diode. So now with D805, that shorted D805 out, do we read our proper 100 ohms on R811? Yes, we do. 100K, sorry. Our proper 100K. And I would say jackpot. So, yeah, that shorted diode was pulling down the, I don't want to say voltage, but see, now we're at 104K, so good. That shorted diode was pulling down the contrast circuit voltage. And that's why it would only have contrast when you maxed it out. So, and like I say, I'll link, let's see, I'm not sure if I'll be able to link the actual schematics. I just went to Google and looked up U5000 schematics and found it, so you may actually have to do that, but the schematics are your friend. So, yeah, let's grab the D805 out of this one. And I will mention that D805 is a Zener diode, so you can't just go throwing in any random diode. You have to have the correct rating and voltage of the Zener diode to be able to do this. And of course it is listed in the parts page on the manual for the U5000. So let's see here, see if we can extricate the truth from this unbeliever on pain of torture. Oh, I just broke it. I broke the glass, but it should still be all right. If not, I have another one. Yeah, I just broke the glass, but the diode's fine. Okay. Put that in there. Let's check it. We should get voltage drop this way. Nope. If I'm in the right spot here. And it flipped around, of course, so voltage drop. And we should get nothing the other way. Nope. Okay. Let's straighten the legs out. I just took a little... I didn't break enough of the glass off of there to make this unviable. The package is still intact, so don't you worry. Okay, and this has to go in like this. I wouldn't want to put it in backwards and be right back where I'm at already. Come on. There we go. Okay. Do 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 do. Okay, D805 successfully replaced. Let's go ahead and check it in circuit. Yep, good. R811 should be 100K. When it makes up its mind. All right, I'm gonna call it good. Okay, now I need to get the flyback reinstalled, which is right here. Put all this back together. We'll get it back on the tube and see if it works now. Well, it didn't work. Exact same problem. So I start poking around here again, and wouldn't you know it, D806 is also shorted. So, I tell you, man. Okay, so this diode here was our original shorted one, and now this was D805, and here's D806 right next to this resistor that was burned up. Imagine that. So this resistor burned up because this diode was shorted, and this diode was shorted, and let's see, this leg of the resistor tied directly to D806, and D806, oh, let's just go this way. Short that way, flip our leads around, short that way, go to ohms, we get for 61 ohms, you can't see it, but 61 ohms, you still can't see it. So, and then if we go to our donor board here, go back to diode mode and 0.6 voltage drop. Another way around. That must be normal. So, let's replace D806 and try again. Well, I found something else here. So, I got D806 replaced. And I started looking at the other component. I thought, well, I better start checking other stuff before I go trying to put this on the tube and test it again. And if we look closely here, we had this resistor got burned up. Even though it checked okay, it burned up. So this is tied directly to this leg of D806, which then comes through and is tied to this leg of D805. And then it runs all the way over here to the base of Q808. And wouldn't you know it, I have a replacement Q808 here out of the donor chassis that I got these two diodes out of. If we test the one I pulled out of the other chassis, transistor, no leakage, good to go. Now, here is the 808 that I pulled out of this chassis. Put it in here. Wah wah. Let's flip it around the other way. Womp womp. So we had a shorted D805, a shorted D806, and a, a shorted D805, shorted D806, and a transistor that's reading like a resistor across them. And if we actually look at the backside of this transistor, it's blown open. Completely blown open. So I am going to put this one in from the donor chassis into here, and then we'll try it again, because that's the last thing I tested and nothing else tests bad. Okay, here we go. What are we going to get after we change those two diodes and that bad transistor? Fingers crossed it works, because if not, then I quit. There's nothing else that's bad. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, comes on. And what do we get? Except for a dirty camera lens. Well, seems all right. Let's turn our contrast all the way down, and let's slowly rotate it up. Oh, brother, I think we got it. That's all the way up. Slowly going down. That's all the way down. All the way up. All the way down. Let's wait here. Okay, that's all the way down. Slowly creeping up, all the way, full blast, coming back down. Halfway, going back, that's all the way down. There's about halfway. There's all the way up, halfway, all the way down. We'll set it about, that's about a quarter. Let's go H position. Where's that at? Right here. Let's do vertical size. Well, hot dog. I think we got it. And that looks pretty good. Darn good, I must say. Well, there you go. Tricky repair, but nothing too crazy. We had a shorted HOT with, I'm pretty sure, a bad insulator. We had this burned up capacitor. I didn't even check it. You know, I'm too lazy. But I don't know if it's... I'm too lazy. It's fine. Then we had R8... I forget what resistor this was. I'll put it in the title of the video, maybe, I don't know. But that, it was in spec, but it was, you know, a bit charred. Then we had the open transistor, which one was it? I forget. And then D805 and D806 were shorted. So lots of interesting things going on here, but it's now resolved. And I'll let the owner know. I'm sure he'll be happy. And I'll let it run for a while, make sure nothing goes haywire or blows up. But otherwise, yeah, a very head scratcher type of repair, but we got it figured out, and now it's documented for future repair people, future technicians, future hobbyists to go after if they have no contrast control on a U5000 or a U2000, and it's not R811. Now you know what else to look for. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you next time.